broadcast live.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, buddy. What's up, King?
You know, I'm out here, man. You know. How's things going?
Yeah. No, things are good. There's been a lot happening the past couple of days, yo.
All I know is that like people are losing jobs and you are getting you're getting new jobs. What's happening? What gods are you praying to?
The ancestors are doing what they're meant to be doing. Let me say that. It's just a blessing. Opportunities, blessings, and yeah, just really fortunate for real, man.
I mean, Munya, just for people who don't know who you are, let's just give you a little background, you know, on your bio, you know, and how and where you are right now, you know, because a lot of people don't know the people behind the scenes. Know what I mean?
Yes, sir. 100%. So, I mean, I think I originally started in the industry back in 2008 when I was working for a record label, a New York-based record label called Tumayo World Music, and they do compilation a lot. They've got nice CDs in airports and the like. Yeah, so I was there for a good 2 years, and that's when I got the opportunity to come up to Joburg to work for Content Connect Africa. Shout out CCA. And I mean, CCA was really the journey that really where I'd say my career and where I knew I was in a space where I wanted to be, which was the entertainment space. I knew my lane though. I knew I'm not in the front. I'm not trying to be in front of the camera in the sense trying to rap and do all that stuff, but I knew there was something. And I mean, at CCA, I was there for like a decade actually, and the company grew tremendously through the years. We opened up offices in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Uganda. We also started investing in content where we were actually doing content creation as well. And then from there, after a decade, another opportunity came through for me just to understand.
Before you go to that opportunity, just tell us what CCA does, right? So people know what they are. I know you were there for 10 years. You're like, I know everyone knows it.
You know that. So Content Connect Africa is an aggregator, which is also known as a distributor, a digital distributor. So they're responsible for so you would give Content Connect Africa your content, and they would make your music available on various different digital platforms, locally as well as internationally. So Content Connect Africa, I mean, they work very well with the local networks, with the caller tunes, which is still a business in this day and age. It's something which I think people thought was going to die. I've been hearing it's going to die for the past 8 years, but it's still out there. And
remember,
as well as
I'm going to keep interrupting you, right? Because you keep on throwing all these words, you know. What's a caller tune? You know, I know what it is, but what's a caller tune for people who don't know what a caller tune is?
So, in all honesty, a caller tune is one of the most downloaded formats of music. You can buy caller tunes through the networks, and on MTN it's called caller tune. On Vodacom they call them welcome tones. And basically, a welcome tone or caller tune is when you call me and you hear a song playing instead of just the normal boop boop kind of ringtone. You have a song playing, and now it's kind of evolved now, as in now we have comedians now doing little snippets, like I know DJ Katu's doing that. We have name tunes where you can now add your name to it. So it's basically, so that's the format. And it's the reason why it does so well is because I think for the main factors is because it's cheap, it's 50 cents a week. It's a subscription model. You pay 50 cents and you get access to that caller tune. That's number one. So it doesn't hit the bottom line of the majority. Secondly, it's also, you don't need to have a smartphone in order to have access to a caller tune. So that's probably one of the bigger reasons, because you and I, Slick, we've got smartphones. We know everybody. I mean, most people around us, but the reality is the majority on this continent still either have, for lack of better words, dumb phones or just feature phones.
Yeah.
And those phones can't access internet. They can't jump on, you can't stream on these phones. So the only way for you to have your form of expression is download a caller tune so someone else can at least hear what you're vibing with, you know?
And this is the highest, this is the highest selling music piece of content, like on all platforms, more than anything in streaming, anything else like that.
I mean, because it's just basic in my head. It comes down to scale where it's because, as I said, the masses still have these phones which are not necessarily Wi-Fi enabled, and also I guess it also brings to light the issue of data cost as well. Data is expensive to stream for the majority, so it is definitely still, till today, I can say that it's one of the most downloaded formats on this continent.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
and you know, you find that some people don't even know that. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't even know.
At all, fam. That's why it's so important, and that's why, and you know, I'm very passionate about just trying to educate people, just for us to do the right thing and to do better as an industry as a whole, because we all win at the end of the day.
Now, because I interrupted you, continue with your life journey.
Okay, the journey.
Your professional journey. Continue with your professional journey.
On the TV. So from Content Connect Africa, there was an opportunity to join Capasso, and I mean, for me, that was actually baptism by fire. And because I thought I knew the industry, to be honest, I thought I knew, but when I joined Capasso, and it gave me just such an in-depth insight into the workings of the industry, as in the people behind the scenes, the collection societies, the publishing world, songwriters and producers. And for me, I remember as this whole world was opening up to me, I'm just thinking, how don't people know this? As in, people don't know that this is lost opportunity. There's guap that's just floating, and how? So whilst I was at Capasso, I mean, as I said, it was baptism by fire. I always say I'm not like the academic type, but I had to go to school. I did a couple of courses just to learn about the CMO business. Capasso was there, and I learned.
Say what CMO is. When we come here speaking that English, like what, nigger?
What is a CMO? My bad. A CMO is a collection management organization. So CMOs. So locally, the CMOs that a publisher works with are the likes of, in South Africa, it's Capasso and SAMRO. Capasso being the Composers, Authors and Publishers Association of South Africa, and SAMRO is the South African Rights Organization of South Africa. So so I learned about the industry there. There I learned the realness. And yeah, it was a great opportunity that then led on to another opportunity, which happened whilst we're in COVID, most recently this week, where I was announced as the new A&R manager for SONY ATV Africa, so I'm only 4 days in. So I still have to, there's still a bit I have to experience, but I mean, I've got a mission, we've got a plan, and yeah, we hope to really change the narrative, let me say that, especially specifically for the songwriters and the producers, I think.
Now, I mean, you're in this position right now, and you've gone through CMOs, started from Putuma Music, just to get to this point. You know, when you get into the role of an A&R manager, what is the day-to-day? You know, what do you look for? You know, from artists, if it's artists, or publishers, composers. What do you look for? What do you do? What does an A&R manager do? Because I just say A&R is listening to music every day and saying that's shit, that's good, that's good, that's shit, that's shit, it's more that's shit. It's more that's shit during the day. It's more that's shit. A little that's good.
that is part of the job, though. It is part of the job.
So you're swearing throughout the day. Shit.
Headphones on, just listening to tracks. That definitely is part of the job. So as A&R, which stands for Artist and Repertoire. So my job is to, number one, seek new talent. I deal with the artists. So that's seeking new talent, as well as also working with the talent that we currently have in our roster. And repertoire, which we just basically like catalog. That's the repertoire, the music. So I work closely with the team. So I guess the first point of A&R is, yes, it's finding new artists, let me actually make it specific. As a publisher, we focus on songwriters and producers. So my job in this instance is to really unearth songwriters and producers. And then once that happens, I then work closely with my team. And together what we do is we need to make sure there's a number of things we have to do actually. Should I get into what we have to do as publishers?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're here for. This is what we're paying this data for.
Beautiful. Actually, one thing before I even continue, I think one of the things where there's a lot of confusion is differentiation also, that there's SONY Publishing, which is where I'm at and where I'm heading up the A&R team. Then there's also SONY, the record label. And we need to be able to differentiate the two, because I've been getting a lot of questions already talking about distribution and marketing, and I've had to tell people that that's the record label side. And the best way for people to remember this is that the record label deals with the performing artist, the person who we see on the screen, the person we see here on radio. That's the record label's job. They deal with that brand and that personality. On our side, as a publisher, we deal with the songwriters and producers. So that's the first, I just wanted to make that clear.
So the recording label deals with the X factor, and you guys deal with the guys who just have the factors.
Exactly. They got the sauce.
Yeah, you just have the factor, but you're not X, Baba. No, give that music to the guy who's got the X. You know, he doesn't have the factor. Just give it to the X.
In the X, but you'll be surprised. Some guys are just happy just having the factor, and they don't even want to be in the X kind of light. You know.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's one of the and the other thing also which I've noticed is when publishing is definitely a word that it's become a buzzword in this industry. If you ask people, do you have a publisher? They just say, yes, I've got publishing, I do my own publishing. And I've realized why people make a mistake with this. And this actually became apparent recently, because the word publishing, I guess, means to make available, to publish. You publish your music, and that's where the confusion comes in, because what happens is there's a difference between a publisher in music, a publisher and a distributor. A distributor is the person who makes your music available. That's the job of a distributor. So when people sometimes say, yes, I've got a publisher, they're like, yes, we're utilizing the services of CCA, so we've got a publisher, or Africori, or Ditto, or whatever, whichever aggregator. So they assume we've got publishers, so we're handled. But nah, publishing in the sense of music is a whole different game. It's a whole different story, which is now what you're going to get into. So
yes, sir.
As a publisher, one of the things, the job of a publisher, number one, is to register our songwriters and producers' works with the different collection management organizations. So I need to go back a bit and explain. This collection management organizations, what they do is they collect royalties on behalf of songwriters and producers. And I named the two in South Africa, which is Capasso and Samro. So that's their function. They license anywhere and everywhere where music is being used. So you're licensing on platforms, digital platforms. So they license Spotify. They license Apple directly. They license all the DSPs. They license SABC broadcasters. They license.
So Munya, I'm gonna stop you. You know,
right.
I know that like in Zimbabwe, they literally like had like they had like high-end university education there. You know, that during apartheid, that South Africans never had, right? So I know you're just
All right.
going, you're just going, right? So let me bring you back to
Hi.
South Africa, Baba. Let me bring you back to South
Bring
Africa.
it back.
Let me
Let's
bring
bring
it
it
back.
back. Thank you,
So,
sir.
so you talked about like you talked about like the public. You talk about the publishing side, and you also talked about Capasso and licensing. Now, I want us to really like explain what licensing means. It's like, so licensing, because there's two types of licensing. Another guy is thinking of, when I'm licensing my music, that means that like I've got my album and I give Sony the rights to distribute my music or to shoot me a video or whatever the case be. Now, when I talk licensing, when a company like Capasso or Samro does SABC licensing, let's break that down. What is that type of licensing? When you say Spotify,
Okay.
when you mention all these guys, just so people know what it means.
No,
people
perfect. And please keep stopping me when I get into that vibe, when I get into my role. Keep stopping me.
You know,
at
when
any
you come
point.
with Zim education, I don't give a damn what they say about Mugabe.
That
He's
Cambridge.
educated you guys. I don't give a damn. You know, shit.
So going to the best way to let's talk about Samro and Capasso quickly. So both of those are CMOs, which I said are collection management organizations. And their job, and they represent composers, authors, and publishers. So those three people are members of Samro and Capasso. So now Samro and Capasso now, they each have a different function in the industry within the CMO space. Samro deals with what we call the performance royalty. So a performance royalty, in all honesty, the easiest definition is wherever your music is played in public, there's what we call a performance royalty, which you as the composer, author, or publisher is owed to you. That's Samro's function. Now on the other side, there's Capasso now, who's also a CMO. But their function is to deal with the what we call the mechanical royalty, also known as a reproduction royalty. And the best way to define this is it's anywhere where your music, where your rights are being used, where there's a reproduction, where there's a copy has been made, almost. So this is the best kind of analogy I can think of. If you print a CD, you've made a master copy of that CD. You then want to get it distributed by, RIP, Look and Listen, or or Musica. You get them, you take that CD, and then what they have to do is, when they're selling your song, they're not selling that only one single album. They have to make copies of that in order to sell. And so that principle goes along the way. The same way when you upload a song onto iTunes or onto Apple, onto Spotify, when someone is downloading, they're downloading a copy of your song legally. And I mentioned legal platforms, not the illegal ones, but they downloaded them legally. I didn't want to mention names. I ain't gonna give them shine.
Continue, bro. We have for you. We have for you. Dropping knowledge. Don't spoil.
Okay, my bad. So yeah, so when you're streaming a song, you're streaming a copy of the song. When you're downloading the song, you're downloading a copy. You're not downloading the only master copy that exists. Sorry. So that's why we call it a reproduction royalty. And this goes across from the digital side, which we refer to it as DSP, which is digital service providers, and the likes of the networks where I mentioned the caller tunes. That's DSP. That's being a digital service provider. Apple is a digital service provider. Spotify is a digital, and so on and so forth. And then this right also does extend to broadcast as well. And that's why I mentioned SABC.
So before we go to the broadcast, let's stick to let's just let me clarify the stuff there on the digital. On the digital side, now let me just say I've downloaded, or let me just say I'm streaming the new
Yeah.
Maraza album as an example, right? I'm streaming the new Maraza album, and I've got it on my what you call it, offline. I've got it offline.
Correct.
I've got this Maraza album offline, and every time I play it, it's like it charges like a mechanical royalty. So it doesn't mean that
Correct.
just because I've got it once, I downloaded it once, and now I've got it in my library, it's finished.
It's done.
Every time I play. So when they're counting all these million streams, essentially they're calculating a mechanical royalty. You just have to take that million streams that you see from Nasty C and then understand what the mechanical royalty rate is, and just go times X
Correct.
amount, basically.
Correct. Yeah, that's how we work it out. So yeah, thank you for that. It makes it clear that with that mechanical royalty is based off a rate. So Capasso does have rates that they apply to what we call the end user price. So for basic example, if you download a song for 10 Rand, it costs 10 Rand. So now we would have a direct deal with you, the platform who's made it available for download, and you would report to us everything that's been downloaded during the period, whether it's a month, a quarter, a year, or 6 months, whatever. You report to us, and then what Capasso would do is they then apply a rate, and they do have different rates for different service providers. So for example, and because it's no secret, I mean, for Caller Tune, I think the rate is 5% of what we call the end user price. The end user price is that 10 Rand, which I'm talking to you about. So so what we'd have to do is you'd need to calculate 5% of 10 Rand equals, my maths ain't that great. Looks like I only got English from my Cambridge learning. 50 cents.
Yeah, because we were the Tutsis here, we were counting our money in the train, so we know how to calculate fast.
Fast. Yeah, so we then calculate, we take that rate, we apply it to the end user price, and we collect that 50 cents, and that is what we would then distribute to our members accordingly, to whoever owns the rights, the writer, the publisher, or the composer. Yeah.
And I think it's important to mention that, like, within that rate, obviously you deduct VAT first, you know. You might also deduct, if we are talking about a network or even Apple Music, every music has got their fee that they deduct, or Spotify's got their fee that they deduct, and then there's VAT. And by the time literally you getting paid, it's after everyone's deductions, which I mean, it's only the network that literally, let's also put it out there that the networks are literally the hardest, where they take almost like 50-60% of your money after VAT on a 50 cents, you know, a Caller Tune for 50 cents, they take that amount of money.
Correct.
And I know the streaming platforms is like 10%, 8%, something like that.
Yeah.
So
they vary. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like after. So just to be clear, it's not a deduction on the end user price. Particularly, the end user price still gets VAT deducted. Still gets like aggregate distributed. Exactly.
Yeah.
Broadcast for networks, there's this broadcast fee also, you know what I mean. They just in a nice way, it's particularly the networks really screw the artists over. Like, I'm sorry to say, I mean, I know you gotta go speak with them to go negotiate the New Jersey celebration agreement for another 10 years, but the networks really screw the artists over in a major way, in my view.
As in there is truth, and it is something which I think at some point does need to be addressed, that we need to be for the industry, and in my head I can't justify the percentage that they take from the aggregators, which ends up being, at the end of the day, the money that goes into the pockets of the actual creators. And it's definitely, and that's even part of the conversation, which I think that we need to almost need to figure out how to regulate this industry. I think there's no accountability, and that's also one of the things where things aren't regulated. We're still, I know I'm deviating a bit, but we're still almost, as an industry, we're stuck on level 1, and we can't get to level 2 because there's certain things that are still not in place, things that aren't understood yet. And I mean, I think there have been attempts to have a music union. I'm not too sure what happened with them, but we do need to, yes, in the industry we compete, but one of the things that we also need to be able to, when needed, we need to be able to speak with a united voice. And something that happened last year, which I remember thinking, man, this is terrible, where when it still took the copyright bill, the Copyright Amendment Act, and there are elements within that act which I mean, as the CMOs and the publishers last year were marching for it, to say, like, it's not that the Copyright Act is bad, it's just that we need to reword certain things to really protect our creators. But I remember the turnout was like, I mean, there was less than 15, 20 people, and the people were just the people I work with in the office or the publishers. And I was like, where's the industry? Why are we not talking in a way that the creators can digest and understand that, yo, this is very important? Because, I mean, that at the end of the day, that's money which we're losing. We're going to potentially lose money. But yeah, we need to regulate stuff. We need to hold people accountable. We need to, as a united front, we need to be able to say, no, we disagree with this percentage split. You need to justify why you're taking, and I mean, in certain territories, and I'm being honest, I mean, I've heard of splits from the networks taking up to 90%, which is, and that means who's meant to share between 10% between the aggregator and now the person who made it? How is that making sense? And until we as an industry actually come together and join hands, these kind of things will continuously happen behind the show. And yeah, it's something which needs to be addressed in a major way.
It's a real thing. A real thing.
It's a real thing. But yeah,
I don't want to get political because I don't want to get into my views on things, because we're gonna digress for a long time.
We give 6 hours, a record.
You know what I mean, man? This is a fucking broken industry. That's all I know.
It is broken, and there are systematic problems that they have to be addressed at some point in time. And I think, and it's these kind of platforms and these conversations which are so important, because this is how the industry learns to do better, or they start asking the right questions, because I don't think the industry even knows the right questions to even ask, to even start fighting. Like, we need to start talking, having these kind of dialogues where people can ask these questions, and then we know, like, yeah, what's right and what's wrong, what do we fight for, and what's okay, we can let it slide type thing. We need to join hands in a major way.
So tell me more about, like, your role.
Okay, yeah. So going back to the role as a publisher. So a publisher's job, as I said, is to register your works with the CMOs, who I mentioned locally are Capasso and Samro, and they, as I shared, they deal with different rights. And what we need to do is we collect, so as a publisher, we collect these royalties, which were the performance royalties and the mechanical royalties. We collect these royalties on behalf of our signees. I'm still adjusting between Capasso talk and SONY talk, so excuse me if I mixed up words. But so the job is to, number one, register your work so that you get these royalties. Our job as the publisher will be then to collect and make sure you get your royalties. Secondly, we're there to protect your works. So, I mean, it's evident that lyrics has become a big thing all of a sudden. We're starting to see lyrics, Facebook, Instagram, and Rap Genius. Lyrics are becoming a big thing, and these are things which also generate revenue. But people don't know that, and that's why
I never knew that. Tell me how.
Yes, sir. As in, that's what lyrics, and that's why we need to. It's important for artists to keep their lyrics, to have lyrics written down and stuff like that. They are different. So Capasso, for example, does have a deal with a lyrics company, has a license, with a lyrics company, 2 in fact, international ones. And I think those 2 companies they actually work in monetizing and actually, well, they make the lyrics available and they also monetize. But the issue in Africa is that we don't know any better right now. We don't write down lyrics. We're not trying to. These guys actually were at one point at Capasso, they were actually requesting that, please Capasso, ask your publishers to share all your artist lyrics with us. And I remember at Capasso we were like, it's not really our function, but we're like, where do we even start? And I remember that conversation last year. So things like that, that's what I'm saying, the industry, there's so much. We need to start writing down lyrics. Lyrics are important.
So
and
how do I send in lyrics like Hibidi?
How do you spell Hibidi?
He's just
H-B-D.
That's my lyrics, nigga. He.
Where's my money?
Where's my money? If
Now,
I hear anyone say Hibidi and they never ask me, it's gonna be a problem. Hibidi.
Show me my money. That's Hibidi with a double E. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I never knew that. I mean, I've always known writing scores, you know, like, okay, scores literally have some type of value. Like, if I could write my music, write my notes, you know, whatever the case be. I've always known that literally, obviously, is to a certain extent, that is, that's where copyright started from. Like when people were writing music, and then they owned the music. And in fact, mechanical, just a quick history lesson, but the mechanical royalties literally came with how many people copied your piece of paper, like the lyrics that you are writing. So if literally you distributed that piece of paper to 20, 30 people, literally there was a mechanical royalty of the people who consistently like were making copies of that song, the notes, the piano notes that you've written. And that's where this whole mechanical royalty comes from, basically.
Yeah, 100%. So that's what my cry is. As an industry, we need to start writing, getting our lyrics. And I know as creators don't like to do admin and stuff. They don't like to do, but it's something we need to start shifting our mindsets. And it's something we need to really start doing and taking it seriously. That's part of the let me say, the chain. So lyrics, as I mentioned, and so our job as a publisher, as SONY ATV, is to protect your works. So that's to make sure that no one comes and now takes samples of your music if you're a producer, takes snippets of your lyrics if you're a songwriter. It's our job to copy and to protect. And if there is any copyright infringement where anyone has used your rights without your permission, that is our job to also to basically, with the fixes. We have to fix that and sort that out immediately.
So
and then also
let me ask a question on that writing, and I just want to find out if this is the same thing. If you know, let's say for us in our time at Squatter Camp, we'd literally write, 7 of us would literally write verses. So we'd split the 50% of the author side of things, you know, and then the producer would own the 50% of the composer, right? Because there was one producer maybe, and there's 7 of us writing on the lyrics, even if no one wrote the chorus, but we just never wanted to complicate our lives. We said 7 divided by that. So because that was, we were literally like the authors, and our publishers knew that, okay, publishing, when anything happens, half is owned by you, half is owned by that. Is that the same thing as a royalty for lyrics when that happens?
So it would be the same thing. So I think I'm understanding. So I mean, it would be. So are you asking basically is it the same principle that so when you guys have just made a song, Squatter Camp's made a song, you guys will then have your split sheet, which will then break down who owns the percentage. You say you're going to divide it by 7, and then when now you notify your publisher, who would be SONY ATV, as well as notifying the CMOs. So yeah, it would it would work the same. It's the same principle. So yeah. So my answer is yes. That makes sense. So it is the same principle.
So would we need to would you need to, do I need to hand in my lyrics, like the words word by word, or is that enough? Do I still need to literally give my publisher like my word for word stuff? You know what I mean?
So,
Because
listen, so what is being requested are the word for the actual lyrics on the song. So we lyrics are 100% needed, word for word. And then what we will apply is, and so when you submit your lyrics, you would also, as I said, you submit the split sheet. So then we would know accordingly who owns what percentage of this song, because music is an asset. And that's one of the things we don't like. We don't make that connection that music is an asset. And just like any asset that's owned, there's ownership. And if we buy a house together, we either own it 50-50. If I put in more money, then I own it maybe 75-25. But the problem is now, I think we don't know any better once again right now. And we just get excited in studio. We make music and then we don't register. We don't know who owned what. I then will just take the song and register it to say I own it 100%, ignoring the fact that Slick, you've also contributed to the song. Only to find out 2 years later, you find out that, hey, there's actually money. And then it becomes a dispute and money gets frozen. Once there's disputes, and there's certain disputes that are sitting in the building, in the CMO building from, I think, even back to the 90s type situation. There's certain disputes, and it's purely because people did not do the admin work that they were meant to, which is have a split sheet, write down your lyrics, and then when you submit those things, we know who owns what. Simple as that. But now, yeah, it becomes a fight when the divorce happens. As everyone knows, things get ugly during a divorce. You don't know who owns what, and then everyone ends up losing.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've just started producing myself. I don't want to have a lot of problems. Me, 50% myself on the beat, 50% me on the lyrics. Look, you know what I mean? Like it's real out here, you know. And with that being said, you know, I mean, just like those realities that you are putting forward, you know, I mean, I'm thinking that like we also need to look at the signs, you know, like when Apple Music buys Genius or buys shares in Genius, and then you go into Apple Music and like the lyrics are only there, and you just think, oh, now they got lyrics. Oh, but like where there's smoke, there's fire, there's money exchanged somehow, some way.
100%.
They're not gonna put your lyrics there because for fun. There must be something there.
Business. It's business. It's always business. These guys aren't doing, there's intention to make money. That's it. That's their intent. So there's nothing just for free. They're not putting out lyrics just because it reads nice now when you post on your story. There's guap. There's money there. So yeah. So I think I've digressed. So I was saying, yeah, so with regards to that, the publisher is there to protect, to make sure people don't sample and just don't take your music. And the third thing, the third function of a publisher is to commercialize your works. How do you commercialize someone's, if you're a producer or if you're a songwriter, the way we commercialize your works is by doing what we call sync deals, which are also known as, full word is synchronization deals. And the definition of what a sync is just when you apply music to a moving picture, to moving pictures. So easy examples is, as you said, scoring for movies and films. It's a film, so those are moving pictures and you're putting music behind it. Or when you're doing advertisements, adverts have music in the, and the thing with music now, music doesn't necessarily have to be with lyrics. It doesn't have to be the song that is just popping, right? It can just be that background bed music, which you hardly even notice is there, but it's there. And someone composed that. And you're owed money for doing that. So that's how we do sync. So syncing is also, where else can you sync music? In computer games. So the gaming sector is where people are also making a lot of games. And I think a lot of people are saying gaming is now becoming the new thing. I think Travis Scott had his collab with, what's that game? Fortnite recently.
Yeah.
So, I mean, through gaming, That's a way of, and that's all synchronization. So that's how we commercialize your works. That's how we make money from your work. So the job also of the publishing team, what during my time at Sony, my plan is really to work very closely with my team and aggressively be going to these places, going to these advertising agencies, going to these film productions, forming these relationships so that our signees, there's an avenue of revenue for our signees. So that's one of the things I honestly, I really aggressively want to do that alongside my team. And then lastly, we also do what we call collabs. We co-write. So we co-write and we look at collabs through writing, basically, collaboration opportunities. So ideally, how things should work even is, so for example, as I said earlier, Sony, the record label, is there, who deals with the performing artists. Then they have the Sony Publishing, who deals with the songwriters and the producers. So, and how we would be working hand in hand is Sony Music would be coming to Sony Publishing and saying, hey fam, we have, who's currently with Sony Music? We have, this Questa. Questa's dropping a new album and we need some songwriters and producers to work. Please help us, basically, as in we need your assistance and give us your services. So then as the publisher as well, is what we should be doing is we round up our writers, we round up our producers, obviously the ones who fit whatever. We put a brief together and we should be saying to guys, okay guys, Quest is dropping an album this weekend. We're just going to be, well, if it wasn't for COVID, let's say, let's go to wherever where we can just focus. And for that weekend, all we're doing is focusing on Questa, and we're just working on putting songs together for him, of which when that weekend is done, as publishing, what we would do is then we go to Sony, where Questa is now there in the office. We've got the Sony record label team. We present to them all the songs that our signees have done on the publishing side. We present, and then maybe Quest will be like, I dig that song, or no, I don't, whatever. And then that's how that ecosystem also works. So the idea is to also really explore co-writing opportunities for our signees. And that only doesn't extend, I mean, recently, and one of the things I've been very excited about is at Sony, I've started getting introduced to the different A&R teams in the different countries, because Sony's global, baby. So, we've really connected with the Sony A&R team in USA, in Germany, in Spain. I mean, those are some of the countries. So we're really starting to connect. And as the A&R teams, we also collectively work amongst ourselves. We have got, I think there's weekly meetings that happen amongst the A&R teams to share and exchange ideas, exchanging projects, see collaboration opportunities. And that's what we need to do, bro. And that's what I honestly, sincerely hope to do while being in this position at Sony, to being a part of those kind of things as well.
Hey, yo, man, Munya, shout out, B. You know, congratulations. What an amazing journey, you know. In such a fickle industry, you've been able to just like consistently find avenues to grow, but most importantly, just consistently found ways to keep yourself committed to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easy for you to get tired of this shit, you know, and just like feel like it's monotonous. But I think the doors have also opened for you to consistently be interested and be passionate about it. And congratulations on your move, on your this at your third day with being A&R manager at Sony ATV Africa.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we must talk, because I'm busy now. Also, I'm busy, you know.
No, we will talk, sir. We have to, and I mean, I really appreciate, I mean, the time. I appreciate the platform to even speak. As you know, this is something I've always been passionate, and I've received so much love from the industry. So I really feel like I'm in the right place as well right now, and I really want to just do better and do right by the industry, and that starts by educating and teaching. So shout out to you, fam, for also having for having such a platform where we can have these combos. And yeah, we should talk and see what else we can do.
Yeah, straight up, B. And also, just as a favor, you know, You know,
Yeah.
when I play some music on Instagram, you know, because we got this on live radio on Wednesdays and Sundays, and sometimes we play music that's owned by the label, you know. So Instagram always threatens me and says that the music doesn't belong to you, someone from Sony, ATV, whatever. So they always say, please dispute the claim. And I normally go, yo, I'm just promoting. And sometimes it goes through. Now I'm going to say, yo, y'all got to go speak to Munya and leave me the fuck alone. And maybe
Hello.
Instagram won't be out here trying to remove my live radio shows on my on my page. You know what I mean?
100%.
I'm
That's a
literally
whole
gonna tell
nother fight.
I'm gonna tell Instagram I know people in high places. Leave me the fuck alone.
You got my number. Just tell him that, fam. Yeah. No, exciting times, bro. Exciting times.
Yo, man, great one, man. Have a great evening, Munya, and keep doing what you're doing.
We'll do. Viva.
Until the next B.
Viva, viva.
Yes,
Amen.
indeed.
And thank you so much again. Thanks, King.
It's a pleasure, B.
Stop.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone that tuned in, and and I hope you took your pen and paper and got these notes, you know, got this education. I think Munya is also available generally for if you're really serious, he will help you without a doubt, you know. So make sure you reach out. Shout out to the bro.
Broadcast live